What's up, everybody? Welcome to Human Innovation Tarot. My name is Eddie with Imagine Life Development Center, and this is actually an impromptu video that I'm making. Now, this is not a reading. This is an educational slash rant video that I decided to make just now. It was completely unplanned, and basically, what I want to talk about is something that that's I don't know if I want to say it's been bugging me. I mean, maybe a little bit. No, I guess it has been. I guess it has been to some degree. And it's and maybe some of you out there can relate to this. I don't know, but here and there, and I understand why the YouTube algorithm likes to show you videos that are related to things that you watch, right? Obviously, I have a tarot channel. So, and I do watch other readers from time to time. So the YouTube algorithm likes to show me things that are tarot related, right? And every once in a while, a video will pop up of somebody who came out of, some type of witchcraft. They've left, they put their, they quit tarot, they left tarot cards behind, or, they turn their back on spirituality. It's like they have a testimony of some form where, they were participating or practicing rituals, witchcraft. They obsessively watch tarot readings. Maybe they were a tarot reader themselves, or they had cards, all these different types of things. And inevitably, in most of these videos that I've seen in the last, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 months, and they crop up here and there. I don't go look for them. And most of these people have this revelation, this realization, that they were, this was some form of darkness that they were wrapped up in, and, they left it behind and they found God, right? And so, they turn to God, they turn to Jesus, and, now they feel obligated to go share their testimony in hopes that, they can help others come out of their darkness. Okay. So I've got a lot to kind of break down here, but this is very important. Okay. And before I jump into what I'm going to discuss here and why these testimonies are, what's the word I want to use? Because I want to honor people for the changes they make in their life, right? There's no such thing as one person's right, one person's wrong. There's just preference. There's just what works for you, right? What's good for you, and where is your heart and your intentions and your motive as a human being? Are you an evil person? Do you seek evil, darkness? Are you out to be a wicked, evil person? Are you trying to perpetuate evil? Are you the poster child or the salesman of dark things? You know what I mean? Like you want to sell people drugs. You want to harm people. You want to manipulate people. Like a cult leader or somebody who wants to, I don't know, like an Adolf Hitler, somebody who wants to kill people, who's angry and prejudiced and racist, and, they have this dark agenda, they're power hungry, they're egotistical, they're narcissistic. Or are you a lost person, and you are seeking some form of peace in your life. You're seeking some form of serenity. You're unhappy. You're depressed. You don't know who you are. You don't know what the purpose and the meaning of life is. You feel isolated. You feel lonely. You're unhappy. You have trauma. You things have happened to you in your life, and you're just trying to find answers, right? A lot of people who come out of this spiritual community, or even why they go into spirituality, is because they're searching for answers. And so they come across things like tarot and spirituality and astrology, and they become obsessed with it in an unhealthy way, because it provides them with something more than they had, right? So if I don't know who I am and I don't know what the purpose and meaning of life is, and I find something that gives me some answers, then that's better than where I was before, right? And so, and then obviously there's the third group of people, those of us who do know who we are. We do know what our purpose in life is. We do know what our calling is. We do know where we stand with our hearts, our motives and intentions. We do know where we stand with our creator, whether you call that God, source of the universe, Jesus, love, whatever name you use for your higher power. But you know that that higher power is unconditional, radical love that loves you, that loves me, and loves everyone all equally the same. And that force that we call love is void and absent of fear. There's no fear. There's no punishment. There's no fear of punishment. There's no this entity, this God, this source, this ultimate all-living, powerful creator that lives within us, and I believe is us, and we are it. Without going into a whole other deep, complex rabbit hole, if your energy, we want to talk vibration for a minute, right? If predominantly in a vibration of love and connection and, light, doing right by others, doing right by yourself, and you are disgusted with fear, pain and evil and darkness, then, it's impossible for you to be utilizing a tool, which I'm going to discuss more in a minute, for evil, right? Because everything is just energy. So anyways, back to the point here is a lot of these people who have these testimonials are very lost and hurt people. Most of them are. There might be a couple of them out there who were angry, carrying some type of anger, unforgiveness. Something happened to them when they were hurt and traumatized, and maybe they turned to witchcraft or Satanism, or they turned to some type of, evil, something that was truly evil. And they were a truly evil person. Like, they wanted to hurt people. They wanted to kill people. They wanted to do bad things, right? They wanted to commit crimes. Those people are out there, exist. But that is a very small percentage of people, in my experience, who find their way into spirituality, right? Most people who find their way into spirituality, again, in terms of these videos that I'm talking about, this isn't, I'm not generalizing everybody who looks into spirituality or tarot or astrology or any of that kind of stuff. I'm talking specifically about people that I see that create these testimonial videos, right? They're just lost people that were looking for answers, and they found answers in spirituality, astrology, tarot, whatever. And then they have a bad experience. So this is the next piece, right? Inevitably, the condition that they have doesn't improve over time. It actually gets worse, right? So they were lost, they were confused, they were hurting, they were lonely, and then they turned to spirituality, astrology, tarot. Some people do go into witchcraft, right? And most with witchcraft that people practice these days is really more of like a very watered down type of witchcraft. Okay. That term is very loose in my opinion. Like, I've met people who call themselves witches, and, they buy into a lot of the spiritual propaganda, and I'm not casting stones, I'm not judging, but that's really what it is. You wear witchy clothes, you buy crystals, you buy jewelry, you know about your astrology, you have your tarot cards, like you have a bunch of stuff that is spiritual paraphernalia, and you might, have a group of friends that go out into the woods, and you have like a witch coven, and you might do sound bowls or rituals or meditations together, but it's not like some of the old school die hard type of witchcraft stuff, right? And I know that, again, there are people out there who probably do dabble in some high level serious stuff in that regard, but I don't think most people do. I just don't see that in my experience. Okay. So again, anytime that we turn to something. Anytime we create a God or we create a savior, even if we're not consciously aware that we're doing it, we run extremely high risk of exactly what happens to these people in these testimonials. So, for example, let me give you a little bit of a background about me. I was born and raised in Christianity. Like, I was the poster child Christian my whole life. I'm 42 years old, and I've only done tarot for 2 years, almost 3. This will be my 3rd year. I bought my first deck in December of 2021. Okay. And so 4 years ago, in 2020, was when I started to go through a process of deconstructing my faith, or what I call religion. So I've always believed in God, and to this day I believe in God. To this day I believe in Jesus. What has changed about me is my understanding of the bullshit that I was taught that I believed in religion. I was taught man-made theology that this is how you have to believe in God. It was a done-for-you system. Somebody who knew more about me, someone who knew more about Christianity than me, was telling me what to believe. And because those people were friends, they were pastors, they were elders, like, you just believe people who know more than you, right? They're supposed to know more than you, right? And this was back in, I was born in 81. So I'm by 1990, I'm 9 years old, so I'm growing up basically through the 80s and the 90s. This is pre-internet, right? Like pre-Google, even up to like 2000, right? Like Yahoo used to be the major search engine back in the day. There wasn't Google.com. And only really in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 8 years has Google even really become the gigantic information, or the information giant, I should say, that it is now. So back then you didn't have access to, all this information at your fingertips. We didn't have these cell phones, where you could just, anywhere you are in the world at any time, you have this device that's on you 24/7 that has everything. And you just, open up your browser and you can search for anything and you can get an answer. Well, now we've even surpassed that. Now we have AI. Now you can get on and, one of these programs like ChatGPT, and you can ask it a question, and in 2 seconds, it will tell you everything you need to know about it. And some of these programs, you can voice enable and it'll read it to you. So you don't even have to read it anymore. You don't have to even go search on Google and like click links and skim through things. You just type it in, you type your question into ChatGPT, it will get the information for you and it'll even read it to you, right? So the reason I'm saying this is that information about religion was not available to me. So even if I wanted to investigate my beliefs back in the day, it would have been very, very difficult. I would have to have gone to a library. I would have to have scoured the local library and hope that they have the types of books that I'm looking for. And, that process was a shit show back in the day because you had to have card catalog and like actually look to see which aisle that book might be on. Then you have to go find that aisle and then see if that book was actually available. It's just a different world that we live in. So, when you don't have access to two things, you don't have access to information and you're not taught to think for yourself and come to your own, what's the word I'm looking for? Come to your own conclusions about things. Then of course you're just gonna believe whatever you were taught to believe, right? And most of us don't want to be outcasts. We don't want to be the black sheep. So we follow in the footsteps of those around us that we want acceptance from. So if you want acceptance from your family, you're going to follow the rules and follow in the footsteps of your family members. If it's your friends, you're going to follow in their footsteps. You're going to be part of tribe. It's called tribalism. If it's your church members, then you're not going to rock the boat with your church family because you want to be accepted as part of the tribe. We all want it to be accepted and validated in that regard, right? So that was me. I was a poster child Christian. I believed all that stuff. I believed that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior, and if I say a magical prayer, then and invite him into my heart to be my Lord and Savior, that when I die, I will go to a place called heaven, and I will not go to an eternal lake of fire called hell. And I was taught to read my Bible. I, memorized my Bible verses. I was taught, actually, I started playing music after a very, very horrific drunk driving incident that I was in, where I was hit by a drunk driver. My girlfriend was killed, her sister was killed, and I was on life support. When I got better, I learned to play drums, and then me and my friends, we started a Christian rock band. Then we started a Christian worship band. We played Christian church music. We went on tour. We got signed to a record label. And then when I got married to my Christian ex-wife, she and I, our passion, what I thought at that period of my life for the 10 years that I was married, was to be in full-time church ministry. So my whole life revolved around the church, being in church, serving the church, playing drums in the church, doing anything and everything. And that was my life. I literally gave my blood, sweat, and tears, my identity, my soul, every part of who I was as a human being was encapsulated in church culture. But little did I know that I was being religiously abused. And that's a whole other topic, but essentially, because of all of the religious stuff that I believed in that was not true, I through, what I really think is a process of grace, what I believe my higher power is, which I do believe is God, not in the same type of way I did in the religious world, but my source, my God, led me down a very long path because I would not have chosen this. In those old beliefs, I believe like every other quote unquote, cookie cutter Christian beliefs, that tarot cards, astrology, and all these things are witchcraft. They're demonic. I mean, anything that is not found in the Bible, anything that doesn't fit the church narrative, anything that doesn't fit into the doctrine or the theology of popular Western Christianity, is you can just throw the word demonic at it, and poof, there you go. Everything's demonic. Taylor Swift's demonic. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are demonic. Rock music is demonic. Everything's demonic. Anything's demonic, right? Like certain stores that you buy your clothes from are demonic. If it's not a Christian business, Christian-owned business, then it's demonic. Everything is demonic. The devil's here. The devil's there. The devil's going to get you. It's always fear, amongst many other things. And I believe that stuff. I deeply believe that stuff. I was the poster child. And I was very, very vocal about it, just like many Christians are, the Christians are often the loudest people in the room about pushing their beliefs because it's fear-induced. If you don't believe the same way that I do, then I've been taught and programmed that it is my duty to basically shove my beliefs down your throat. I feel obligated to do so because as Christians, we were taught that if this is how I was taught. I can't speak for all Christians. I was taught that if I meet somebody that is unsaved, that is not a Christian, then and I don't share the gospel with them, and I don't invite them to ask Jesus into their heart to be their Lord and Savior, then their blood was on my hands. So now I was responsible for their eternity if I did not step up to the plate and basically shove my beliefs down their throat and basically, without knowing anything about this person, without building a relationship, without understanding anything. It's just you're a complete stranger, and I'm going to assume that because you're not behaving the way that I'm behaving, you don't talk like I talk, you don't dress like I dress, then you're not a Christian too, right? And some people would go, I wasn't this fanatical, thank God, but some people were so fanatical that they just assumed everybody wasn't a Christian. So they would just walk up to people, not know anything about them, not shake their hand, ask them their name, introduce themselves. They would just walk up to them and say, "Hey, do you know Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior?" Like that's their opening line. That's their opening speech, right? And looking back, now it's like I mean, that's like psycho. Like, who does that? Like, that's complete lack of empathy, compassion, understanding. You don't even want to get to know this person. And here's the bottom line with that whole situation. The only reason that person is doing it is because they have a fear that if they don't try to convince that person to say a prayer, then they're the one who's going to get punished for it, right? So it's still just more fear, perpetuating more fear. I could go on forever about this because I'm very passionate about spiritual abuse now. I don't talk a whole lot about it, but I do have a hidden community, I should say, on social media that I've had for the last 4 years, where I've, over the course of time, as I meet people who are going through spiritual abuse or coming out of spiritual abuse rather, and they're deconstructing from the toxicity of all that bullshit, they have a safe place to come to get answers. And I don't push any beliefs that I have on anybody anymore. It's up to you to decide. You have free will. Me, you, everybody has free will, which means your life, your soul, your beliefs, your thoughts, your actions, your emotions are your responsibility. What you do with your life is up to you. That's why it's free will. You have the freedom to use your willpower. That's what free will means. It means freedom, willpower. It's a short and condensed way of saying the freedom to use your willpower as a conscious awakened being, right? So here you are, a spiritual being having a physical experience that has the freedom to use your willpower to experience life however you want to experience. But there is cause and effect. There are rules. There are physical laws of gravity. There are spiritual laws out there, right? So our job is not to tell other people how to live and experience this journey, right? But, all that being said, I've been fortunate enough to help those people. So in 2020, getting back on track here, I went through a deconstruction process because, COVID happened. Everything just felt weird to me. I'm a highly sensitive person. I've had other supernatural, spiritual experiences way back when I was a child. I had to keep this stuff hidden my whole life because I was a Christian. And you just didn't talk about this stuff. Like, I didn't talk about the fact I saw shadow people, had sleep paralysis, and stuff was messing with me in my sleeping bag, dragging me across the floor in my sleeping bag, just random crazy things, when I was younger. And then as I got older, feeling other people's feelings and emotions, and then getting messages and downloads, information about people when I didn't know them. They're complete strangers. And as I've gotten older, I've had messages from people who've crossed over to the other side. I don't want to call them dead people because they're not dead, but souls who have transitioned to the other side. I've had messages come through from them. Like, this stuff is real, right? Do I believe that there are demons and entities and other things like that? Well, I believe that, yes, there are other forms of consciousness. We are not the only form of consciousness, right? Whether you want to think that's aliens, interdimensional beings, if you want to call them demons, I mean, it's, whatever words you want to use, are all beings and entities nice? No, I don't think so. Just like all animals aren't nice, right? And unfortunately, we have this illusion of safety because when you're in a safe environment in the physical 3D world, like your house, your home, places where 99% of the time you're safe, well, that doesn't mean that you're safe in the spiritual world. For all you know, where you are right now, you're walking through a spiritual wilderness, right? And how many times have you gone out for a hike or gone into the woods and come across, a deadly snake, or, a lion, or even a bear or something, right? Like something that could really kill you or hurt you, harm you. Like, most people don't. A lot of people do, but considering the vast amount of people who are going on hikes and going out into the woods time and time again, most people don't have those experiences. Well, it's no different here in the physical world, right? You can be going about your life and not knowing that in the spiritual plane, you're wandering through the woods. And are there bad things in the spiritual realm that can be attracted to you, that can harm you? Absolutely. Now, that's a little bit of a vague analogy to describe something that's more complicated than that, because that realm doesn't work the same way that this realm works, right? This realm and that realm have different rules. So, and again, that's a whole other story. So back to the purpose here and the point of all this is that in 2020, I began to do a lot of research because I felt unhappy. I felt that something was changing. I felt that who I was and what I believed was no longer sustaining me anymore. Like I was spiritually bankrupt. I could feel it. I was purpose depressed. I was miserable. I'm like, what's going on? Why can't I just be happy like I used to be? And I'm supposed to be one of these happy-go-lucky Christians that all of these people talk about, how they were depressed in spirituality and then they converted and they chose God and now they're the happy ones, right? It doesn't make sense. Well, I'm supposed to be one of these happy Christian people who's not happy. And the more that I come out of that and the more that I go to spirituality, it's the reverse effect for me, and I already know what those people would tell me because I was in that. I used to be in that belief system. They would say, "Oh, well, you've been deceived. The devil's deceived you. You went off the path. You went away from God, and you started going. You've been deceived by demons and blah 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 blah." Like that's again, like I said at the beginning of this, like that's the typical response that you're gonna get is everything is demonic. You've been deceived. You're stupid. You're dumb. Like we're just these bumbling idiots who who have no concept or clue about what's going on to us spiritually. Like we are so out of it that we would have no clue that we were being deceived, right? When actually what I was doing in 2020 is the very thing that the Bible tells you to do. Is for you to seek your own understanding. It's for you to do your own research, for you to think for yourself, right? That's our responsibility to come to the conclusion about what we believe because we believe it, not because somebody told us to believe it, right? And so as I started to go down that rabbit hole, because I decided if I'm going to be a quote unquote Christian, then maybe it's important for me to know why I call myself a Christian and why I choose to believe this, not why I believe it because someone told me to believe it, right? And I would implore anybody who watches this video to do the same. If you don't know why you believe something for yourself, then those aren't your beliefs. The beliefs that you have, no matter how strongly you feel about them, those beliefs were given to you, handed to you, right? Like if someone came to me back when I was a Christian, they said, well, explain your beliefs to me. Explain where they came from. Who were the forefathers? Tell me the history. How did your beliefs evolve from its point of origin all the way down through history to become what it is today, which is what you have now as your belief system? I wouldn't have been able to give them those answers because I didn't know. I would have regurgitated information and answers that were handed to me. Oh, well, and it would have been very superficial because I never researched it. I didn't feel like I had to, right? But as I began to do research, my mind was blown and my eyes were open because what I realized is, unfortunately, I was lied to. That my whole Christian life, 90 to 95% of it was lies. It's man-made theology. It's complete BS. It's complete made up. The stuff in the Bible, the way that I was taught to read the Bible was man-made theology. Ideas that people created about how to interpret and read that document that was passed on to me. And so I'm just reading it through their definition. That book is a very spiritual book. But if you don't understand the history behind it, you don't understand the culture that it was intended for, you don't understand the times of what was going on historically when those specific documents were crafted and created, you don't understand the history of that document as it went through, hundreds and thousands of years, how man has manipulated and changed that, all of it. You have to understand the big picture. You have to go through all of it. And as I went on that journey, I realized that I was lied to. And that's, again, this is tons and tons and tons and tons of other information to get into. But I was also researching quantum science Okay. Quantum science, actual science, provable science, peer-reviewed science. And I was learning about energy, which led me to metaphysics. And essentially, metaphysics is just a fancy word for non-physical. In other words, the stuff that we can't see that creates the world that we can see, right? The stuff that's going on behind the scenes, like what makes this phone hard? What makes all of this stuff that we see? Well, it's all energy, and science proves this. And so then I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense to me. Like take all the BS, the religion, all the fluff out of it. Science makes sense to me. So I'm like, cool, that I can hold on to. Well, the more that I studied quantum science, and then I started to look at spirituality apart from religion, I noticed that spirituality and science were saying the same thing in two different ways. Spiritual people were basically saying, this is the reality without the technology to prove it. Science is saying, this is the reality, but we can use technology to prove it. So spiritualists were basically coming to the same conclusions that scientists were. They just didn't need the technology to get there. So then where were they getting that knowledge? They were getting it from another place. They're getting information from another source outside of themselves. But that source, whatever it was that they were getting it from outside of themselves, was also coming through them. And this has been going on for thousands of years. In fact, as far back as humanity goes. So who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust a system that has been around since as far back as we historically know that we've existed as a human race? Or are you going to believe only science, which is just now finally catching up to where spirituality has always been, right? And so I don't feel like you have to choose one or the other. I'm like, well, I think both are relevant. And it's cool because now that science is proving what spirituality has always been saying, it makes spirituality more credible. But there's even more to it than that. Then you have to understand psychology. Why is psychology important? Why is human behavior important? It's because if you don't understand how your brain works, then you won't understand the way that you relate to these things. Because the power of your beliefs, the way that your beliefs are shaped, will affect everything else. In other words, anything that you learn, any piece of information or knowledge that passes through you, passes through the filter of your beliefs, through your biases, through your judgments, through your experiences, through your narratives, through your stories, right? Me and you, the viewer, could have the same experience at the same exact time, right? And when we're interviewed and we're asked about that experience, we could tell two totally different stories. It's like, I had an experience, we both get on a roller coaster. You have the experience of, man, this was the best roller coaster I've ever been in my whole life. It was exhilarating. It was fun. Oh my gosh, I love roller coasters. I'm like, I hated it. I was anxious. I felt sick. I hate roller coasters. Why? Because I'm filtering that experience through my beliefs and my reality, and you're filtering that experience through your beliefs and your reality, right? So it's important to understand beyond science and spirituality. We have to understand psychology. We have to understand our relationship to these things that we call beliefs, these systems, these paradigms, right? And so I went through this whole process, and the long story short in all of this is that I deconstructed my faith. I realized that I can believe in God. I can still even believe in Jesus. And I can even believe in the Bible with a renewed understanding of how the Bible is meant to be used, because there's a ton of spiritual wisdom in that book. If you understand spirituality, if you understand these things, then there's a treasure trove of information in there, right? But if you go to that book through religion and theology, there's a lot of limitations, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of harshness, and there's a lot of contradictions, right? And that's the conclusion that I came to. And say, well, this is ridiculous. I've been believing in a lie my whole life. And so I'm like, well, what do I believe now? If I'm not a Christian anymore, at least not a cookie cutter Christian anymore, then what am I? And I realized that, well, I've always had a relationship with God, and I still have a relationship with God. And my relationship with God was never religious to begin with. And so, I am a spiritual person who believes in the unconditional source of universal love, that God is unconditional love, period. And that's who I am. I am a spiritual person who believes in an unconditionally loving source, a power, whatever you want to call that. It doesn't really have a name besides love for me, because it's infinite, it's so big. It's the everything, but it is love, period. And so, and that has given me my truth. I have found meaning in my life. I have found purpose. I have overcome insecurities. I have overcome so much by stepping out of religion, which is interesting because my testimony would be counterintuitive to a lot of these anti-tarot testimonies, where people are like, oh, I was in spirituality and I was in witchcraft and astrology and I did tarot readings and I let all that stuff go and I turned to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and now my life is so happy. And it's like, and again, I can't judge these people, but I'm like, well, you just switched sides. That's all you did. You just changed one. You just traded. You were giving your power away to something outside of yourself the first time. That's why spirituality didn't make you happy, because you never found yourself to begin with. You were already lost, and you expected spirituality to save you. So now you're going to go over to Christianity and you're going to say, well, maybe this will save me. And it's the new, shiny, bright, fun thing. And there's a community waiting to accept you there, where I have to admit, if I were to look at the spiritual community and Christianity, the spiritual community is a lot more lonely, because it's much harder to find like-minded people that congregate in a group. They don't have churches for spiritual people. They have retreats, and yes, there's groups and there's meetups and things, but there's not a traditional, every Sunday you go to this huge building and you're hanging out with all your spiritual friends. Like, that just doesn't exist. But Christianity, you do have that. You have a place to go where people have been conditioned, like, oh yeah, come to our church. And now you have all these friends, you have this community, you have the whole experience. And I know this because, again, I was in this my whole life. I participated in it. I helped it. I propagated it. I was all about it. So I understand how that world works. And if I had to be honest with you, yeah, the church world is way more like, if you're looking for a place to find community, like you want to be around people where you feel, accepted, you feel seen. I mean, accepted within, not every church is like that. Obviously, a lot of churches are fake and people aren't always the nicest in Christianity, but that's not true. There's some Christians and some churches out there that are very loving and very accepting, right? So, again, I'm not going to sling mud on either side, but the bottom line is there's no, the problem that the main problem that these people have is that, one, they don't have an identity. Okay. If you don't know who you are, you don't know what your purpose and calling in life is, then you're going to wander around you're just lost in the woods, right? You're what they call a ship that has no rudder, that's lost at sea, right? And a ship that doesn't have a sail or ship that doesn't have a rudder has no direction. It can't go anywhere. You're out in the middle of the ocean, a piece of wood drifting in the ocean, right? With nowhere to go. Of course, you're going to be lost. So that's the number one problem. You're not lost because spirituality and tarot cards and witchcraft and astrology and all that has nothing to do with it. You're lost because you don't know who you are. You're lost because you don't have a connection to a higher power. You're not connected to the ultimate source of love, whether you call it God, Jesus, Buddha, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're not connected to that source. And that I do believe and still agree with in terms of Christianity and spirituality. Like everybody needs to have a relationship with God, your higher power, your creator, whatever that is for you. That part I still do believe, because if you don't have that connection to your creator, you will be empty, because you're basically avoiding the very thing that is your soul. So the way I define spirituality is turning inward to discover who you are. That's my definition of spirituality. That's all spirituality is. Spirituality could be said like this: spirit, your reality, or spirit is your reality, right? And that's you. You are spirit. So we've been wired in our culture to look everywhere outside of us. That's the number one problem. We're constantly looking for something outside of us to identify with and to give our power away to. Well, those of you who understand tarot know that that's not how this works. The Magician card is the very first card, technically the very first card in the major arcana. Yes, the Fool card is the actual first card, but the Fool just represents the Almighty, the everything, infinite possibilities. The Magician represents us. The Magician represents, because, he's got the 4 items on the table, and he's holding the wand up to the sky and pointing his other finger down to the earth, which is saying that you are the creators of your reality. That's what the Magician card is really about. We are the creators of our reality. We are the ones with the power. Not pastors, not spiritual gurus, not crystals, not tarot cards, not science, not religion, not politics, not the government, not your parents, not your husband, not your wife, not your boyfriend, not demons, not angels, not spirits, not guides. You are the creator. Now, when you give your power away to something, who has the power? Whoever you gave your power away to, or whatever you gave your power away to. What do you think an addiction is? If you're an alcoholic, why does that alcohol have power over you? How did the alcohol get the power? Where did the alcohol get the power from? You gave your power away to the alcohol, right? Why do people get obsessed and addicted to tarot? Because you gave your power away to tarot, right? And this is the age-old metaphor of the golden calf. The cards become your God. And so now you have to keep going to the cards, to the cards, to the cards, to the cards, to the cards to know what to do with your life. Because without the cards, you feel scared, you feel anxious, you feel uncertain, and you're clueless. You're back in that state of loneliness, depression, anxiety. I don't know who the hell I am. You're lost. I'm lost without those cards. I need these cards to tell me who I am, what's coming up for me, what to do, how to respond, how to act, what to know, what's my future. But we do that with all sorts of things. You don't need tarot cards to do it. So people who create these videos and act like, well, tarot was bad and it's evil and this and then that, and I was lost and my life got worse and messier and things got dark. Well, yeah, of course, because you were giving your power away to those other things because you didn't know that you ever had power to begin with. So the first thing, again, the most important thing is you have to connect to your highest power. And your highest power, the God source, the universe, love, whatever that is not outside of you, it's inside of you. So again, the definition of spirituality is you turning your focus, your awareness, your conscious awareness inward to figure out who and what that is for you. I can't tell you what to believe. I can't tell you that, to believe in God, to believe in source, to believe in the universe. You have to choose that. How do you choose it? Is you have to do what I did. You have to go do the work. You have to do the research. You have to do your own thinking. Think for yourself. That is an obligation that every single human being has, and so few people do it. You have an obligation to understand why you are here. No one can come to you and tell you. People can give you clues. You can find a mentor. You can find someone to think through things, to wrestle with things. You'll encounter people who will give you knowledge and information. There's people along your path that you'll meet that have divine appointments and all these different types of things. Or you'll give your power away to people that will absolutely take your ignorance. They'll manipulate you. They'll take advantage of you for your ignorance, and they'll influence you because influence is the most powerful force in the universe. And so if you don't know who you are, there's somebody out there who's very happy to tell you who you are, and they're very happy to tell you how to be, what to believe, what you should do, how you shouldn't do, who to vote for, who not to vote for, which God is the right God, which God's the wrong God, which is the demon, what's not the demon, what's evil, what's good. There's always going to be a voice out there to tell you who to be and how to think. You give your power away to that, cool. Now they'll just program you and you'll be stuck in the matrix. Believe whatever the hell they believe. It is your responsibility, my responsibility to do the work to figure that out. Going within yourself to figure out who your ultimate higher power source is, to figure out who you are, right? And it has nothing to do with what, what devices or tools, spiritually or not spiritually, that you use. There are just as many, there's just as many hateful, evil, harsh, and disgusting Christians as there are people out there that the Christians think are evil and demonic and this, that, and the other. In fact, I would say it's more. I've never, honestly, and I can say this because I came out of that culture. I have never seen a tarot reader, an astrologer, or a witch, even for that matter, somebody who practices witchcraft. I've never seen any of those people ever, not one time have I ever heard or seen one of those people condemn me, force me to believe what they try to shove their beliefs down my throat. I've never seen them be prejudiced, racist. I've never seen them spew hate. I've never seen them assault people or attack people physically or verbally, or go out of their way to hunt them down online, to spew Bible verses at them, condemn them with doctrine, beat them over the head with Bible verses, tell them, hey, you're going to turn or burn, or if you don't stop this, the devil's going to get you, or you're demonic, or you're deceitful, or you're spreading lies, you're spreading evil. I've never, ever seen them do that. They're, in my opinion, they're very accepting people. They keep to themselves. They're the opposite of all that. So, and again, I used to be one of those people. I used to be one of those Christians, by the way, not on a crazy fanatical level, but there were times where I was guilty of doing that to people. And for sure, there would have been a time where I would have been probably doing the same to people in this community. Like, I would have been that guy telling you tarot cards are the devil, you're going to hell, that's satanic, it's demonic, it's witchcraft, and you know what the Bible says about that, and blah, 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 blah. And so, I come from that. I can relate to it. So, I guess what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that there's a lot of people out there who don't know what they're talking about. They're sharing their testimony, and I'm not saying that they have freedom of speech and they have a right to express their experience and their reality. And there are going to be people who relate to those experiences and those realities. But the reason I'm sharing this with you guys, because some of you guys out there are going to find these videos that other people are making, and it may make you question your beliefs. Because you're like, well, man, what if I am doing something wrong? What if I am dancing with the devil and toying with evil and blah, 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 blah. Because these people sharing their testimonies sound so sure of themselves, right? And so this is kind of like my counter to that. Not because it's about who's right versus who's wrong, but it's about knowledge. You need to understand. You have to have knowledge, which brings me to the last part of this video. So if I were to sit down with some of these people who talk about how tarot is evil, it's bad, and it's demonic and all this stuff, what I would do, and I actually did this to my parents, because my parents are still in the old Christian belief system. And so there's a few things that you can do. The first thing is everything is energy. So the way that you approach people like this and you approach the situation is you approach it from science. Okay. If you can prove something with science and you can leave spirituality and religion out of it, then I'm not saying it's foolproof, but it goes a lot better. Right. So the first thing you need to do is understand that everything is energy, period. And that we are antennas. Our body is an energetic conductor. Everything going on is in our body. We're basically batteries, essentially. Okay. And I'm just keeping it very, very, surface level here. Like a lot of this is way more complex than I'm going to make it sound here. So you are basically an energetic field. Now, some people are more sensitive to energy than other people, right? And their frequencies, right? Like if I wanted to listen to country music right now, or rap music, or rock music on the radio, what do I have to do? I have to turn the radio on, but then what do I have to do? I have to tune into the station that genre of music is on, right? That all right now in this room with me, those frequencies are here right now. They're always around, just like the Wi-Fi that's allowing me to make this video. That energy, those frequencies, that wave of energy is here with me right now. It's always there. Now, if I'm tuned into the rock station, well, then I'm attuning to what's already here in this room with me right now. It's an energy that's available to me right now. I don't have to go outside and look for it and hunt it down and track it down. It's here, right? Well, our thoughts, our emotions, our energy, and all of that is part of this collective because we're energy. And we're sharing our energy with everybody else in this world that's also energy because everything is energy. And some people get around other people and they can pick up on the things going on in their energetic field. That's how we basically, what people are called psychics and all that. It's a silly word, really. You're not a psychic per se. You're just picking up information that's coming off that person. And that's why you know things about that person that you shouldn't know. Now, when you get into channeling, which is different, that's a totally different thing. You get into channeling frequencies from other dimensions. That's something totally different. You're communicating with interdimensional intelligence, consciousnesses, whatever you want to call those things. We use names like angels and all these things, but we don't know if they're angels. That's just what we call it. It's an intelligence. I know that. I communicate with an intelligence that communicates with me, but I've never seen it. I don't know what it is. I just call it my guide. And we have we talk about things all the time. I get all kinds of revelations and downloads from things. In fact, I would say 80% of the information that I'm writing about in this book that I'm about to release soon, second book of mine, came from that source, right? So we have the capability, we have the technology built into us to connect to energy. Now, when it comes to all the spiritual paraphernalia, what I find is funny about that is you can take the same thing. Like, so for example, I got a few examples here. So right here, I have a pendulum, right? So let's take a look at some popular spiritual paraphernalia. Is there anything spiritual about this, I don't know, stone or rock or piece of marble? And most of this stuff is probably generic. Most of it's probably not even real, and there's just a little chain attached to it, and that's probably not even real silver. It's probably some generic cheap silver, so this thing probably, whatever factory it came from or wherever, it probably cost maybe like 10 cents to make, but they sold it to me for $20. Here's another one. Is there anything spiritual about this? Now, this is totally fake. I can tell you this right here. This feels like plastic, a hard piece of plastic. I mean, it looks very similar to this one, but you can feel the difference of it in your hand. So this down here is plastic. It looks like metal, but this is actually plastic. This chain, this piece right here is plastic. These beads are obviously plastic. And then this piece right here, it might be pewter. It's very cheap. It's not real metal, this little piece here. But it looks spiritual, right? It's colorful and it's got this little Buddha head on it, so it looks spiritual. Spiritual paraphernalia, right? Just like this. And so we look at this stuff and we think, ooh, spiritual, right? Because it's part of that genre. We see that stuff. It's spiritual. Okay, so we have the pendulums, and I'm going somewhere with this, so stay with me. Next thing we have are dowsing rods. Okay, so these are, copper or bronze dowsing rods. So this is just a rod, an L-shaped rod that's going into a sleeve, a metal sleeve here that swivels. So you hold the rod, you hold it like this, and the rod, you can ask questions, and you're supposed to hold both of them. It's kind of hard for me to do on camera, but you hold both of them and you ask questions, and the rods will respond to the questions you ask. They'll swing by themselves, just like how a pendulum will swing when you ask a question. These rods will swing and respond to yes or no questions. You can also use dowsing rods for other things. And then last, we have cards. Is there anything spiritual about these cards besides the artwork on them and the fact that Well, we know they're tarot cards because obviously this is a tarot channel. But is there anything really spiritual about these pieces of cardboard? And on this particular deck, this cardboard that this deck is made out of is very cheap. Like this is like as cheap as it gets. I mean, I don't shuffle these cards hard at all. And they're all beat to hell. You know, it's a very, very cheap material, but I really like the artwork, you know, for this particular deck. I mean, obviously you're a tarot reader. You know, you guys know how it is. You buy all kinds of, you can't have just one deck. You got to have all the things, right? And here's a different one. This one's made out of plastic. PVC. It's plastic. Is there anything spiritual about these plastic cards with images on them? No. It's just material made out of stuff. Now, here's the kicker. I have these cards. What are these? These are blank playing cards that I bought off of Amazon, right? I wrote stuff on them. So these cards come completely blank, and I wrote words on them. Are these cards more spiritual or less spiritual than the tarot cards? Right? They're the same. The exact same thing. So, now that I've shown you the all the witchcraft stuff, like this is the witchcraft, right? This is the stuff that's evil and demonic and all the stuff, right? Well, so with my parents, I was, helping them understand the science behind this. So what I did was I went into their closet and I got one of those old school coat hangers, the metal coat hanger that has the white cardboard sleeve, and I made dowsing rods. What I did was I cut the cardboard part, the bottom part of the coat hanger in half, and then I unwound the metal part of the coat hanger and I bent it and I made dowsing rods, just like these. The cardboard part was the sleeve, and obviously the metal part that I bent of the coat hanger was the rod. And I showed them. I held them and I asked questions, and those coat hangers responded just like my legitimate dowsing rods. Now, do you go to the spiritual store and order coat hangers to make dowsing rods, or do you buy dowsing rods? You buy dowsing rods. But are dowsing rods more spiritual than coat hangers? No. Why? Because these rods are just items. It's just a piece of metal, right? There's nothing spiritual, there's nothing magical about this item. And just because you buy it from a spiritual store doesn't make it spiritual. Just like this. This device, there's nothing spiritual about this. It's not magical. This is not a magical tool. And so for my second example for my parents, my dad does a lot of fishing. So I went outside, I got some fishing line, and I got a little weight, like a fishing weight that you put on your line. And I tied the fishing line to the weight, and I made a pendulum. And I wrote on a piece of paper, yes or no, which I don't have here, but you write yes or no on a piece of paper, you hold the pendulum, ask the question, and the pendulum will swing to the correct answer. And I showed them. And I told them, so you can do it. Here, if you think I'm doing some magic trick or something, you do it. And so I got my parents to do it. They held it, had them ask the question, and the pendulum swung for them too. And but you see, it's not the item. These items are not magical. There's nothing witchcraft. There's no demonic. There's no demons here. They respond to your energy. You are the creator. The power comes through you. You're the mechanism that makes these items work, right? The same thing with cards, whether it's cards you make or whether it's tarot cards. There's no demons or demonic things that live in these cards. It's wild. No demons came in these blank cards from Amazon. There's no demon that came in this piece of this cheap pendulum. It looks cool. That's why I bought it. It's crazy. And so, there's a lot of ignorance. The reason I'm going into all this in such detail for an hour now is because, again, I want you all out there who find this video, I want you guys to stay aware that there are people out there, unfortunately, who have not done their homework. They don't understand how this stuff works. They don't understand energy. They don't understand science. And they sure as hell don't understand spirituality. And I'm sorry to say it like that. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just stating the truth. I've been in both worlds now. Actually, multiple worlds. I was the poster child Christian, so I've been in the world of religion. I've spent the last 4 years of my life entrenched in spirituality. I've studied the occult, and all that word means is hidden knowledge. Occult doesn't mean demons, demonic, Satan. Doesn't mean dressing up in black and going out in the woods and painting pentagrams on the ground with animal blood, lighting candles, and sacrificing creatures under the full moon. That's not what the word occult means. It literally, if you go and you just Google what does, define the word occult, put that in Google and it'll tell you what the word means. It just means hidden knowledge. That's all that word means. I've studied the occult. I've studied all of this. I've gone down a lot of rabbit holes. Okay. So I understand religion. I spent most of my life in there. I spent the last 4 years obsessively studying the occult. The last 10 years, I've been in psychology and human behavior. I have a certification in coaching from that field, and I've done other types of certifications as well. So I understand how human behavior works, understand how psychology works, and I've spent time in the metaphysical, aka quantum science field. That's kind of where I've been dabbling now, understanding science's perspective of this stuff, right? But the problem is most people, they dabble in something that they don't understand, and then they have a bad experience with it, and then they swing the pendulum, no pun intended, swings. Like if you're over here, like I was in Christianity, and you're like, oh my God, I had such a terrible experience. You swing way over here to the opposite side, right? Or you're way over here in spirituality. Oh, I had such a terrible experience. And the pendulum swings way over here. And like, no, I got to go be a Christian. And that's irresponsible. It's predictable, but it's irresponsible. Because all you're doing is you're running away from a bad experience that scared the shit out of you. And I will say this to those people who've had legitimate bad experiences, dabbling in spirituality, witchcraft, and all these things. Well, first of all, with great power comes great responsibility. There are people who don't need to be playing around with shit that they don't understand, whether it's all energy or not, right? Like you have to understand that when you start going down a certain path blindly, right? Like you would never give a 3-year-old, you never give a toddler a handgun, a loaded gun, would you? That would be irresponsible. What do you think that kid's going to do with a loaded gun? It has no business having a loaded gun. Put the loaded gun in the hand of somebody who knows how to use it, and that gun could become deadly, or that gun could be used to protect. Same thing with a car. You would never put a 5-year-old behind a car and let the 5-year-old just drive wherever the hell it wants, right? You have to learn how to drive a car. You have to take a test. You have to get a license, and then you're expected to follow the rules when you drive. People don't do that. They just like, oh, I'm just going to go out and buy some tarot cards, or, ooh, I'm going to go out and buy a Ouija board, and I'm going to start, trying to connect to, entities, and I don't know, and I think it's going to be fun. It's like, you don't know what you're fucking with. Pardon my French, but that's just the truth. Like some people have no business messing around with things because they don't understand. Most of these people, they go out and they're low vibrational. Like you have trauma, you're unhealed, you're depressed, you could be on drugs, you could be drinking, you could have all kinds of issues that you need to deal with before you start doing things. And this is proven through DMT, through psychedelics, through mushrooms, ayahuasca. People want to condemn that. Like, oh, well, I had a bad trip. I took magic mushrooms and, I saw, demons and monsters, and that stuff is evil. No, what you saw was the energy that you were in. You were experiencing the energy, the reality of the energy you're in, which is why I tell people, If you're going to go and you're going to use, what's the word? Something medicine. I can't, my brain, it's not thinking of the word, but plant medicine, right? If you're going to take magic mushrooms, which actually has been scientifically proven. I don't have the stats with me. I should have got it because again, this was impromptu, this reading. That's not this reading, this explanation video. If you're going to, or what the results have shown, is that people who take psilocybin mushrooms, compared to traditional therapy, are healed like 50% of the time. So in other words, 15 to 20% of the time, traditional therapy has been proven to be effective. That's sad. 15 to 20% of the time. Psilocybin mushrooms, people who take and have that and use that as a way to heal past trauma and things like that, has been shown to be effective around 50% of the time. Why do you think they want that stuff outlawed? Right? Because the pharmaceutical company can't monopolize it and charge you for it and say, hey, and regulate it to where you have to go through them to get it, right? Because it's a plant. It's out in the nature. So what do? They create regulations to make it illegal for you to have access to it because they don't want you to be healed. They don't want you to get well. They want you to have to rely upon your prescription medications, your anxiety pills, and all that bullshit, and have to go through big pharma to get Band-Aids instead of getting an actual to heal the root cause, the root wound. Right? That's a whole other topic, but I'm going to say it because that's what I believe. So, all this to say, if you've got this far in this long rant, and you come across one of these videos where somebody, somebody says, tarot is from the devil, or why I quit tarot, or why I came out of witchcraft, or why I did this or why I did that. The very first thing that I would say is don't judge them. That's their path. That's their journey. And that's their lesson to learn. 2, there's a reason that they had the experience, the negative experience they had when they were in that, where they were dabbling or participating in those things. Just like me, I had a negative experience being in Christianity my whole life. And my life is dramatically improved now that I've stepped out of religion. So as you can see, some people come out of spirituality and go to religion. Some people come out of religion and go to spirituality. It is what it is. So, but the second thing is to understand that there's a reason. There is a deeper reason about why those people were having negative experiences. And out of their ignorance of not understanding psychology, not understanding energy, not understanding science, not understanding any of the things that I've explained in this video, they come to their own conclusion. They're like, well, it must be the cards. The cards have demons. You're playing with the devil, and it's like, well, no, you might have, I'm not saying that there aren't potentially negative or low vibrational entities that you were flirting with, but if those entities were around you, it wasn't because of tarot cards. It was because of your energy. You attract what you are. That's the law of attraction. You attract whatever's coming into your life. You have a bunch of negative energy and you're low vibrational, then yeah. I mean, it's the old analogy. Flies are attracted to shit, right? And there's another analogy, right? The only reason that flies eat shit is because they have never tasted honey. And you'll never see a bee eating shit because bees have tasted honey. It's a beautiful contrast, right? So there's a reason that people have these bad experiences. Then they project their bad experiences onto the system that they're in. And so then they go from one extreme to the next. They leave that system and they run to this other system that they're being told is the right way. No, that was all evil, demonic, and satanic. Come over here to God where it's light and love and blah, 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 blah. Well, we'll take you in. Of course they will, right? So again, don't judge them. Understand that there's a reason they had that experience. And 3, and this is the most important point of all this, is for the love of God, Do your own research. You figure out your beliefs. You do your research. And if you do decide that one day that tarot and spirituality, pendulums or whatever is not for you, that's fine. But at least know why. Don't just have a bad experience and go, well, oh my gosh, I had a bad experience. I mean, unless these cards transformed, like literally, if I wake up tomorrow or later tonight, if this card morphs into a big, nasty, black, horrific demon monster and tries to kill me, then yes, I will give up tarot. I will give up spirituality and be like, hey, there was a demon in that card, and that card transformed into a big, ugly monster demon thing, and it came and got me. It tried to kill me. If shit starts flying off my wall and my room turns into Poltergeist 2.0 and just crazy shit starts going on that I can't explain, and I go throw my cards in the trash can and it all stops, okay, then maybe I'll have something to reconsider, right? That hasn't happened for me. And for like 99% of any other tarot readers that I know, that's not happening to them either. So if it's evil, then why aren't we all having those experiences? Doesn't make any sense. There's so many things about it that don't make sense, right? But my point, because I'm getting on a rant now, do your own research. Whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to believe, you have the responsibility to understand it, to learn it, to know it, and to get to go down your own rabbit hole and to figure out, well, who am I? What's the meaning of my life? What's the purpose of my life? And, is this right for me? Is this something that I should be, toying with? Does this thing improve my life, or does it take away from my life? Does this thing empower my life, or does this thing disempower my life? And I will say this to a lot of you out there, and I've made other videos that I highly recommend you go watch on my channel, other informational videos. If you're addicted to tarot and you need tarot to tell you what to do, and you just constantly have to get a reading, and you obsessively watch and listen to tarot readings 24/7, you can't go a day without it, that's a problem. That is an addiction. That is not healthy. That is not what this system is for. That is not what these cards are for. Okay? If you use tarot as a god or a demigod, you're using that as some way to connect to something because you don't know how to connect with yourself, that's a problem. Heal yourself. The fourth and final thing, wherever you are in your life that like you've had trauma, you have depression, you have whatever's going on in your life, or you just feel lost. Heal yourself. Okay? Get into high vibration. Find yourself. Find somebody who can help you. Find a mentor. Find a coach. Start reading books. Invest in you. Figure it out. Come talk to me. I'm completely open to conversations and having discussions. And I'm not here to say that I have all the answers for anything. I certainly don't. But I have some answers, and I have a lot of resources, and I'm part of a lot of different communities. And if I don't have an answer, I'm happy to share, or make suggestions of where maybe you could go or what you could do. Okay. And to reach out, the email should be in the description box, but I'll share it here. It's just imagine, the word imagine, at dreamoutloud.center. I know it's not a .com, a .org, or .whatever, but that's the email address. Just send an email to imagine@dreamoutloud.center, or leave a comment. Leave a comment on this and say, hey, I'm confused or uncertain about this, and you said that you were open to conversations. I'd like to have a conversation with you. I'll respond to you. I'll reach out to you, and I'll figure out a way for us to have a conversation, or I'll create a group, and maybe we can do a group conversation if there's enough people who are feeling lost and you're feeling uncertain or you're feeling unsure. I want to help people. I want to help people in these areas of their lives. That's why I'm here doing this. I wouldn't be spending, where am I? I'm an hour and 15 minutes. I need to shut up. This has gone way too long. I want to help people. I wouldn't be on here saying all this just to listen to myself talk for an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. But, there's so many voices out there. There's so many people having so many different experiences. And I know what it's like to be lost. And when you're lost, then you're most vulnerable to being influenced by somebody else. And when other people get afraid and you don't know who you are, then that can cause you to get afraid, because somebody else who was once uncertain will show up and they'll sound confident. They'll be like, I used to be in witchcraft. I used to be in tarot, and I left all that behind and I went to God. And you're going to be like, well, man, I don't have that confidence in my life, and I feel kind of lost. And, I kind of feel like my life, the way that this person described how they used to be is kind of how I feel the way that I am. So what if what I'm doing is bad and wrong? What if I need to, disavow, spirituality and tarot? What if it is demonic? What if it is satanic? And what if I am being deceived? And what if I do need to go run to religion and all this blah, 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 blah? This stuff can penetrate you and influence you. And it's just going to lead you from one lost place to a new lost place. Okay. And again, this isn't me advocating for one or the other. If you want to go be a Christian, be a Christian. I was a Christian once. If you want to go be into spirituality, be in spirituality. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to lead you in any one direction. You got to choose, right? Everything I've been saying, it's up to you to decide what to do with that. But what I am saying is, if you don't protect that, you don't protect yourself from being influenced by what's happening in other people's lives, and they're out there, saying that this and that is evil and whatever, and you drink that Kool-Aid, then in my opinion, you're in a very disempowered place, right? Because there's truths and lies in everything. There's truths and lies in politics. There's truths and lies in religion. There's truths and lies in spirituality. There's no place that you can go where there's not going to be lies and bullshit amongst truth. So you have to find the truth, no matter what, what dimension or what realm you're operating in. Okay. So, hopefully this video has made some sense. Again, and I'm not bashing. I just want to close out by saying I'm not bashing people who are sharing their testimonies online. I'm not bashing Christianity. I'm not bashing spirituality. I'm not bashing or saying that one's right, one's wrong, or anything. I'm not saying that the people who are posting these videos saying that tarot is evil and bad, demonic and satanic and it all should burn to the ground and nobody should do it. I'm not saying that those people are wrong. Those people are where they're at and where they need to be. I'm simply saying that we have to take responsibility for our spiritual journey. And in my opinion, it's ignorant to impose your journey in life onto somebody else, because their journey's not the same as yours, right? It's not up to me to come and go, okay, you need to be like me. You need to believe what I believe. You need to, how do I know? I have no idea what the full picture of my life is. If you would have asked me 4 years ago if I would be a tarot reader, I mean, are you freaking kidding me? The place that I came from, there's nothing about my life 4 years ago that's even remotely recognizable. My life is so completely different from what it was 4 years ago and how I was raised and the place that I came from. It's unimaginable that I could have been where I am now, or the places that I see myself going. And I feel very blessed. I feel happy. I feel abundant. And I've met some of the most beautiful, wonderful people in this community, in this realm, who are loving and accepting, who are intelligent, and who are doing more good in the world than most of the people from my past are. Going to church on Sunday and congregating with a group of people and listening to one person on a podium tell you what they think about their beliefs isn't really spreading a whole lot of good in the world, in my opinion. That's not really helping people get unstuck, figure out their lives, figure out how to find happiness, fulfillment, purpose, and meaning in life. That's just my opinion. And again, I lived that. I lived in that world. So, anyways, a huge impromptu rant. If I had actually sat down and thought through this, I would have made bullet points. I probably could have made this about 2 times. I could have probably done this a lot quicker in half the time. But I didn't. This is completely off the cuff. And I felt very strongly about it, felt very passionate about it because, you know, I while I'm happy for the people that are finding their way in life, I just think that, you know, I don't think that because you're once lost and you went from one lost place to a new lost place, but the new lost place feels better than the old lost place, doesn't mean that you've been found, right? Just because it feels better right now doesn't mean it's found. You go follow up with these people who post these testimonies 5-10 years down the road. Let's see where they're at. Let's see if they're still, you know, in these, you know, in their religion. Let's see if they're still as happy as they were. Let's see if religion is still serving them the same way. Or let's you know, you have to look at the big picture. It takes time to see who people become and what they choose to do. And again, like I said, did they become a better person? Did they become a more powerful person, a more empowered person? Or did they ultimately remain the same? Was this just a momentary shift in their life where, hey, I wasn't happy here, I changed, I went over here, and it feels better here for now? It's like getting out of an old toxic relationship and getting into a new relationship. Well, of course, the new relationship feels good because it's not the old toxic relationship. But you don't know what's going to happen in the new relationship. What if the new relationship becomes more toxic than the old relationship? Only time will tell, right? So anyways, I've said enough. I've gone on for over an hour and 20 minutes now. I need to shut up and wrap this up. But please leave your comments, questions about this. I know this is kind of a very controversial, maybe, sort of topic, but I wanted to confront it because, again, I can't be the only person out here that's seeing these types of, you know, videos that are attacking tarot, attacking spirituality, and throwing religious, you know, craziness at it and saying it's demonic, this, that, and the other. And when it's just not true. It's not true. It's scientifically not true. And again, I could prove it from what I said with science. I mean, I can craft any of these tools with normal household items, and I could go out and I could get any one of these Christians to do the same thing that I do, to prove that there's no demons behind the scenes, flipping the cards, swinging the pendulums, making the rods move. There's no imaginary forces that are in here, you know, deceiving and manipulating things. Does that mean that there aren't entities? Does that mean that there aren't other things? Does that mean that there aren't, you know, dark entities? Of course there are. Of course there are. But it's our understanding of that realm that's wrong. You know, and we have to understand how all of this works. And that takes patience, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes studying. You can't just watch a couple of videos from a couple of know-it-alls on YouTube and think that you've found the Ark of the Covenant. Like, oh, I figured it out. I watched this, you know, I watched this 11-year-old girl on YouTube talk about, you know, witchcraft and demons. I've got it all figured out. Like, dude, she's 11 years old, man. Like, you know, you need to go find some like ancient stuff, man. You need to go down some rabbit holes. You need to connect a lot of dots, read a lot of books, and from a lot of different people, so you have enough information from enough people who have different opinions for you to put enough evidence together, right? Like building a case, like a lawyer. You know, you don't just go out and go, I got a witness. I'm going to bank this whole trial on this one witness. No, you build a case. You find this witness and that witness and that witness. You get as much evidence as you can to prove your side of the trial if you're going to win, right? You don't just find one person who claims to be a know-it-all and be like, okay, I'm going to put all my eggs in their basket and now I know it all. That's ridiculous, you know, and there's so much information out there. There's so many know-it-alls out there, you know, and so I get it. It's just very easy to fall into that trap. So anyways, if you haven't, I would greatly appreciate it if you find this information helpful and you haven't considered subscribing to my channel, please do. I also have another channel where I'll be talking more about these topics. I try to keep my tarot channel just about tarot, but I have another channel. The link for that should be in the description as well, where I'll be talking more about metaphysics, identity, purpose, just, you know, life coaching, spiritual topics and things like that. And I'll keep this channel really mostly just about the readings. And that content is more put together because I actually take time to, script it out, make points. It's not just a big, long, convoluted rant like this, right? I just turned the video on and I hit record today. So hopefully I won't be doing that too much more, because it's not helpful. People don't have you sit around and watch this stuff for this long. But anyways, this is my big rant. And so whoever finds this video, whether it's now, in 2024, or 10 years from now, and if I ever change my beliefs and I come to the conclusion that, that I feel that it's more harmful for me to say the things that I'm saying right now, then I'll take this video down. I'm like, hey, that video is not helping you. I don't feel that that's helpful. Then I'll take it down. But right now, this is where I am. This is what I believe. But as always, think for yourself. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off and hopefully see you guys very soon. As always, my friends, love and light.